Hi folks, thanks for joining me today. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back, and if you're new to the channel, please think about clicking that subscribe button. Today I'm going to tie a minnow pattern, so without further ado, let's get into it. In the vise then is a Hanak H970 barbless hook. This one's at size 6. As you can see, it's a long shank hook. It's on a heavy wire and it's in black nickel. This one's at size 6. Now the thread I'm going to be using today is a uni thread, and it's in fire orange at 6/0. So first thing I want to do is get plenty of wax onto my thread. And then I'm going to start just in behind the eye and get a bed of thread. Don't be too fussy about this. There's going to be plenty going on this fly, so you don't need to be overly worried about neatness on your thread wraps up. Now I'm going to bring it up to just past the point of the hook and then come in with my snips and remove my waste. Now, as you've seen, it's got quite a long marabou tail, and to help prevent the tail wrapping round the bend of the hook, what I like to do with my long marabou tailed flies is just build a large lump of thread at the end here, and that just helps to stop that from happening. Also, it does give another trigger point on the fly, so that'll do the job. Now for the tail, I'm going to be using two types of marabou. The first one's going to be an olive dun, and the second one is a comp candy Olivesque. So I've got a couple of feathers out the bag that I've been working with, and the first bit of marabou to go down is going to be the olive dun. So I'm going to take about a thumbnail's worth initially, and I want this to be a little over the length of the hook. That'll do. And I'm going to catch that in. It's going to give you bags of movement in this fly for the length of the tail alone. Once you've got that in, you can remove a chunk of this waste. Just get it out your way. And I'm not going to worry about tidying up just yet. And then the next thing I'm going to do is come in with some Olivesque, and I'm going to take about the same, about a thumbnail's worth, and that's going to come in directly on top. Now I want this to be a bit longer than the first piece of marabou I put down, so if I lay it on, I can see that that's just going to come past the Olivesque. Then I can catch that in. Again, I'll roughly tidy up the front with my snips. And then last but not least, I'm going to come in again with the same amount of Olivesque. Sorry, of the olive dun. Now if you haven't got olive dun, a dark colour will do. Brown's good. You could use black, but I wouldn't be overly happy with black. Again, I want it to be slightly shorter than the Olivesque. That's going to be the longest material, and similar to the first piece we tied in. So if I use the hook shank actually as a measure, I'll probably get a much more accurate. Yeah, that's better. So that comes in on top, and then I can catch that into place. Again, I can come up with my snips and just tidy that up a little. So that's our tail essentially in place. Now what we've got here is, remember the little bump we tied at the back? Just there. That's a great guide to where your fly ends. So what I'm going to do now is just take a little time to tidy up all this marabou. I want to try and keep it fairly even, but again, because of the way I'm going to dub the body, it's not going to make a great deal of difference. So again, I'm just lifting the tail at the back so I can see where the bump is. I'm just going to come a wee bit, few wraps back. Just make sure that's sitting how I want it. Now to help me, I'm going to damp my thumb and forefinger and just damp that tail down. It just stops it flowing about and getting in your way. And you can see you get that sort of teardrop profile, and I don't want to snip away my end here because this is the big tail that's going to give me all the movement in the fly. So next I'm going to use a little bit of crinkle flash. This is the extra fine, it's from Hends, and I've already got a little strand off here, and I want that to be the same length as the tail, so I can see the point of my tail here. I'm going to bring that in up my side first. A couple of wraps just to get it into place. It does have a tendency to coil up the very thin stuff, but we will overcome, as they say. Once you've got that around, I'm going to bring it in onto your side, the length of the tail, and trap that into place like so. Then pull them both back and trim them away, and that's your tail finished. Might seem a little bit of faffing with the three different applications of the marabou, but it does give you a great effect, and it's, in my opinion, it's worth doing. So next then we're going to add in our rib, and what I'm using is this is some wire from Fish On. It's 0.14 millimeters in diameter, and it's gold. I've already got a little piece off here that I've been working with, and I'm going to just catch that in like so, and I can come all the way back to the base of my fly, and before I do anything else I'm going to get plenty of wax on my thread. Okay, so far so good. The dubbing I'm going to be using is from Andrew's Scruffy Dubbing. This is a custom blend that he's done for me, and let me see if I can show you on the camera. It's like a mix of different synthetics and gives a lovely effect, like a brown, red, there's greens, yellows. It's like a multicolour sort of effect, and it's just synthetic, but it's ideal for this pattern. So I'm just dubbing that on. Again, don't need to be overly fussy with it. There's still going to be quite a lot going on after the body dubbing goes on. So I'll start to bring that up. I've still got a little bit of dubbing in my left hand, just in case I haven't got enough. Then as I get to the bit where my body tapers away, I want to build that up because I don't really want a taper in there. Just try and keep your body nice and even at this point. Again, just keeping that dubbing in my left hand so that I can keep feeding my thread. And I think just one little bit more should do the job. Yeah, I'll settle for that. Fairly happy. Okay, so next we're going to add our Grizzle Hackle, and I've just taken a feather from this Grizzle cape. I've already got one picked out here, and all I've done just off camera before I started is I've stripped away the feathers at the bottom and left myself a little bit of stock there. Now as you can see, the feathers bends round, and you want the bad side to go towards the fly. Again, I'm just going to add a little bit of wax, help catch that stalk in, and then I can just lash that down. Don't be worrying about thread wraps at this point, because as you've seen, we're going to be using one of the Stonflo Softheads to finish this fly off, and it just gives it that extra look. So all I'm doing now is breaking the spine of the hackle so that it stands out at a 90-degree angle from the hook shank, and then I can come in with my hackle pliers. You could probably get away with using your fingers here, but I just like to use the hackle pliers. I feel it gives me more control. So I'm going to just come straight back with this. And this little bit of Grizzle hackle that I've got is a great little patch. You can see the way it's tapering away already, and it's just ideal for this. Just keep coming until you reach the butt end, then try and find your wire in amongst your tail. I'm just getting a wee bit lost. And my first turn, I like to try and make sure I've caught that tag in, and then I can start weaving through the Grizzle hackle. What I should have done actually is got a longer bit of wire, but I'm so tight that I just had a little bit on my bench. I thought I'll get away with that, and I'm going to get away with it, but it's going to look pretty awkward and clumsy as I try and bring it round. But I have managed to get away with it, but this is what comes of being a tight jock. There we go. I've managed to use up that little bit of wire, and I'm sure I'll find a wee use for this bit that I'm taking off here. So once you've secured your wire in, you should just twist away, and then you can come in with your snips and remove your hackle just at the end here. Now if you catch a few of the fibres while you're coming up, don't get yourself into twisted and bitter about it. You know, you're going to catch a few fibres. Don't be worrying about that. So that's looking pretty good so far. Next then we're going to add a secondary hackle, and all I'm using is, again, it's an Indian cock cape and it's been dyed green. I've already picked a feather out, and again, similar to the Grizzle hackle, I've stripped away some of the fibres and left myself a little stalk to catch in. But before I do that, I'm just going to add a little bit more wax. Again, the underside of the feather needs to go towards the fly, and then I can catch that in. Just any stray fibres coming off the gristle, get out of the way. And then once more, break the stem so that your hackle's coming back at a 90-degree angle. Just helps it go round the shank a lot easier. And I'm going to grab my hackle pliers. Now I want 2 turns with this. There's the first one. As you can see, it's a little bit bigger than the Grizzle hackle. And there's the second one. Slick it all back. In fact, I've made a pretty poor choice with this one because it's slightly bigger than I would have liked, if I'm going to be perfectly honest about it. I'd have liked that a little smaller than it is, but there we go, it's on now. And I'll just secure that in with a couple of turns in the front, and I can come in with my snips, try not and catch all the hackling you just put in, and remove it. Now we want to get all these stray fibres out of the way, so I'll lick my thumb and forefinger, slick all the bits and bobs back, and just have a little tidy up at the front here. And as you can see, I've got a fair amount of space to play with, because I'm going to come in with my Softhead. Now the Softheads, unfortunately I've lost the packet, but if I can just show this up to the camera, basically it's a plastic head that comes in over the top and slides over the front of the hook. Now what I want to do is just show that up like so. So that's going to go on like that, but first I don't want to have just the orange thread. So what I'm going to do is build up a taper at the front here with my dubbing. So I need a little bit more of the dubbing out of the packet. It's just the same dubbing I used for the body. If you were of a mind to, you could add in a different colour dubbing at this point and it will give you a different effect. It just depends what you're trying to achieve. So I'm going to get some dubbing onto my thread and let's see how we go with this. So it doesn't need to be a big taper, but it does need to kind of be quite steep. Oh, there's a dubbing snowstorm here. Then I'll come in and just build that up. So there's quite a significant amount of dubbing in there already. It needs to be compacted because what we're going to do is add some super glue to get this Softhead to stick to the fly. So still more. I'm a great believer in you know, use your material sparingly, not because I'm tight, because it just makes it a lot easier to work with. It's much easier to add stuff than it is to take things away. So I'm fairly happy with that. I'm going to come in at the front, a few turns like I was going to finish the fly as normal. Then I can grab my whip finish tool and just give that a finish. Now I want just the tiniest bit of orange shown at the front, like that, and that's worked out rather well. And then I can remove my thread. Now this is the bit where it can all go wrong, but it's looking not too bad at the minute, so keep your fingers crossed for me as I come in with some super glue. And what I want to do is just coat all the way round that dubbing. Now you could use a needle for accuracy, but I'm not going to bother because the fly is so big I can get away with just coming straight from the nozzle. But put plenty of glue on. And then your Softhead can go directly onto the fly. Make sure you push it back beyond the eye. Remember, you've still got to get your tippet in here, so make sure it goes all the way back, and that's into place. Now this particular Softhead that I'm using just fits really well with the Troutline black and silver 3D eyes. So how I'm going to apply them is I'm just going to take a couple off the card here, which I should have done really, saved a bit of time, and I'm going to stick them on. Now they're slightly, ever so slightly, smaller than the gaps that the Softheads have for eyes, and what I'm going to do to ensure that they don't come off after a few casts or hopefully a couple of fish is give them a little coat of UV resin. So I'll just do the one on your side, pop it on like so, and that looks pretty good. Now what I tend to do actually, although I've put the eyes on last here, when I'm preparing materials for tying this fly, I would place the eyes on at that point. But just to ensure they go into place, I'm going to use some Solaris Bone Dry. Don't need a great deal, but it's just to fill up the gap between the eyes. And I'll do both sides at the same time. And give them eyes a little chance to stay on the fly for a while. Give them a zap with your pen. Oh, wrong way round. And there you have a little grizzled minnow. Some interesting techniques in amongst that, and I hope you enjoyed it. Give you something to give a go. The soft heads are great fun to tie with, and they're very easy to use. I really like them. I think I'm going to try a couple of tube flies with these and see how I get on. But there we go. There's quite an effective little minnow pattern. I hope you enjoyed that. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please think about clicking that button in the corner there. I would very much appreciate your support.